All right, we want to welcome you back and welcome you who have come for the first time to our Are You Well workshops. We come every month from the beautiful Center for Clinical Wellness here at Rush and want to make today very special. So hopefully you have your water with you, and we are going to talk about eating your way to wellness. And yes, we could make eating fun, and we could also make it well. So I have two wonderful guests with me, both Avery and Lauren, and they are dietetic interns and candidates for their master's in clinical nutrition here at Rush University. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so my name is Judy. I'm the wellness liaison at the Center for Clinical Wellness here at Rush. And these are the topics that we come to you each month to talk about. If you ever have an idea for a topic, or something that we could do differently, please don't hesitate to let us know, because we are all about your wellness and hoping that we can support you in your wellness. So today is noon, next Wednesday is at 6 o'clock, the same topics. And these recordings are posted on the wellness website. How you get there is go to Inside Rush/wellness, right? Okay. Right, as we start with all of ours, we're going to start with our grounding exercise. If you could sit back in your chair, feet flat on the ground, hands in your lap. You can soften your gaze, or you could look at a picture, kind of like what I have here, something outside, something green-gray. If you have a window, you can look out there. The trees are a little bit on the brown side and the ground's a little bit on the white side, but it's still nature and it's very soothing to your brain. That would be fine. But have that image in your brain as you soften your gaze, close your eyes, right? Take 3 deep breaths, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And if you've been rushing around, you might want to add in putting your hand over your heart. That is an automatic message to your brain to calm, to bring down that cortisol, to allow you to catch your breath. And if you're really feeling charged and needed a little more calming, take that right hand underneath your left arm and push on the ribs, and the left hand up over your shoulder. So you're kind of pressing into that muscle. Hold that for a moment. That's connecting a neural pathway, and take those 3 deep breaths. And again, this is all to bring down that cortisol, allow you to be more in the moment, leaving any emotions or conflict behind. And go ahead, whichever position is comfortable, soften your gaze, and just listen to my voice. Think of a person who's been kind to you. Could be a grandparent, a parent, a partner, a friend, even a beloved pet. Allow yourself to feel this kindness, this warmth. Imagine this person, this being, gazing at you with understanding and kindness, compassion. Imagine this person is wishing you well, sending you a blessing, possibly saying these words: may you be safe and protected. May you be healthy. May you be held in kindness and compassion. Take one more big deep breath through your nose, out through your mouth, and stretch out in front of you. Over your head, grab one wrist and pull. Grab the other wrist and pull. Put your arms behind you so you open up your chest. For those of you who sit over a computer, you kind of scrunched over. This kind of opens that up. Take a breath. And then just shake your arms. Shake it out. All right. So good. Now you're ready, right? So what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about healthy eating patterns, kind of get you in the mindset of eating mindfully. Find some examples of nutritious and affordable snacks. That's really important. We have that combination, especially for our students. And think about how proper nutrition contributes to academic performance. And it really does have a link, starting with water. Just 2% dehydration slows down the shift from your amygdala, your fight freeze, to your prefrontal cortex, where you have the logic and reasoning. So you really do want, for the very basic wellness, to hydrate, right? That's really the best thing right now. All right, so we're going to start out with a little exercise, and I'm going to move our window here over to the side. Take your phone and go ahead and go to menti.com. And you can either use the QR code or you can put in the code that's on the screen. And I want you just to enter in words that come up for you when you hear the word diet, right? Is anything that pops into your head about diet? For those of you who are listening on the phone, it's menti, MENTI.com. And when you get to the site, you want to write down the code. It's 6828-2865. I'll repeat that, 6828-2865. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go over to the Mentimeter site so we can see some of your answers. As you put them in, we will be able to see the answers. All right. And you can put in as many as you want. By restriction and restrictions. How about that? Two big ones right now. Oh, I love it. Forbidden. That's a great word. Starving. Wow. All right, I see something. I see plan. That's a positive. Lost body fat. Yeah. Roller coaster. Definitely. All right. These are all really good. All right. I'm going to go back to our talk. You can continue to put this in. We might be able to even look at it at the end. I think this is good. Hard. So the bigger the font, the more people are putting that in. So restriction, health, and restrictions are still 3. All right. I hear somebody having an overhead. All right, so thank you for doing that because I think that's helpful. When the last time we did this, this was what the Mentimeter looked like. So you can see it's pretty much the same stuff, right? Although for them, health popped up as a really positive thing and lifestyle. I thought that was good to have that in there. All right, so to continue on, some of the terms that we want you to know is that actually it is your habitual nourishment. All it is, the word diet means food and drink regularly consumed, okay? Meal planning, thinking ahead, considering adequate nutrition. The most gratifying thing for me around nutrition is when I open the refrigerator in the morning as I'm getting ready to work, there is this bright light that shines in on my lunch that I made the night before, and I grab it and go. That feels so good. So meal planning, very important. And mindful eating, not with your phone, not with your computer, actually in the moment, realizing if you're hungry, that you're eating and what you're eating, so that later on you can remember that you even ate. Because sometimes we eat so fast or we're doing so many other things, we don't even remember that we ate. All right, so I'm going to pass this over. Laura.
Hello, it's
Introduce
my
yourself.
turn.
Go ahead and get started.
Yes, my name's Lauren Hopkin. The whole reason I'm interested in nutrition is because my father is a farmer, and so I'm trying to contribute to this food industry in the way that I can. And I love this image right here of my plate. I would imagine most of you are very familiar with it and have seen it before. I love it because it's so basic and so simple. As a nutrition student, we talk a lot about macronutrients. We talk about calories. There are so many technical ways to talk about food and recommended dietary allowances, and it can be really overwhelming. But this image, oh, yep, perfect, reminds us that we can make nutrition, we can approach nutrition in a simple way. And so we don't have to worry about numbers so much as we are looking at portions. So if this is our plate, we want half of it to be fruits and vegetables and the other half to be grains and proteins. And then we can't forget our little dairy off here to the side. And this is something that can be used for children all the way to adulthood. And so it's something we can all apply in our diet. The next slide.
I am going to
Oh.
ask if people could mute themselves while we're going through this. It'll be a little easier. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. So this slide is from the Harvard School of Public Health, and it goes a little more in depth about my plate. It talks about water, which Judy gave a good plug for. We want to be drinking about 8 glasses of water a day. If you have a hard time drinking water, when you do drink water, instead of getting a little cup, get a big cup, fill it full of water. If we're looking at grains we can eat, try to incorporate whole grains, whole foods, things like oatmeal. We can have whole grain bread. We can have cereals that have whole grains. So being mindful of that. We want to get as much fiber as we can in our grains. Here it talks about healthy protein. So maybe that would be black beans as a protein option rather than a hot dog, even though there's room for everything in the diet, but being mindful of proteins that might be more healthy than other, or more nutrient dense than other options. And then fruits and vegetables, it focuses on variety. A little bit later, Avery will talk about the importance of the colors of the different fruits and vegetables that we have and the significance of those colors. And so we want to make sure that we have a rainbow of fruits and vegetables in our diet. And lastly, it touches on healthy oils. So it's okay to have fried foods every once in a while, but those should be limited. We really want to focus on using foods that aren't fried. And when we use oils, excuse me, using olive oil, avocado oil, some vegetable oils will be much better options than always cooking in butter or margarine or oils like that. And
Avery, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I am Avery. I am in my first year of the clinical nutrition program here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mediterranean diet pyramid. And the pyramid looks a little more complicated than my plate, but it is still pretty simple. Whereas my plate is going to focus on how we build our meals and our individual plates. This is a little bit more about things you should be incorporating every day versus the types of things that you should be having less often. And kind of like what Lauren said, there is room for everything. We're not totally eliminating, these meats and sweets up here that say less often. There's still definitely room, but what we want to be focusing on are these things towards the bottom. So our everyday items are going to include fruits and vegetables, whole grains, olive oil, beans, nuts, legumes, and all of those things. And one thing I also want to point out is that I think we tend to sometimes base our meals around our proteins sometimes. I don't know if anyone else falls into this habit, but you build your plate and you build your meal sometimes around a big protein. But another way to look at it, according to this pyramid, is basing your meals around these grains and fruits and vegetables and things at the bottom. And maybe that can kind of help build a plate similar to my plate and incorporate these recommendations a little bit. The other thing that I want to point out about the pyramid is this word moderation. We hear the word moderation a lot, and in here it's referring to moderation with wine and alcohol consumption. And moderation can mean different things for different people. Really, all we're trying to do is avoid extremes. So I think if you look it up, the typical recommendation is for men 1 to 2 drinks, and for women 1 drink a day, and that would be considered moderation. But it is, again, just important to remember that can be somewhat individualized, and that moderation may mean different things for different people.
All right, thank you. And the third one we were going to highlight is the MIND diet. And it's really important that we highlight this because it came from Rush, and we have national recognition with it. And it is a hybrid between the Mediterranean and the DASH diets. What MIND is, it's the acronym of Mediterranean DASH Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay. And they're finding so many amazing outcomes from their research that it really does show that it slows down cognitive decline and it adds more flavonoids. And you'll read more about how important flavonoids are. But this is actually the 6th straight year that it's been recognized by US News as the 3rd best plant-based diet and the 4th best overall meal plan. So that's really impressive, thinking about all the different plans that are out there. And the epidemiologist, Dr. Martha Claire Morris, and her colleagues at Rush and Harvard were the ones that developed this plan, showing the correlation between food, nutrients, and brain function. And so those things are very important to all of us. But I think especially to students, I think the best you can do for your brain is something that you really want to get that good brain function. So if you take a look at some of the things that it tells you to eat and some of the things it tells you to limit, it really does go along with what Lauren and Avery were talking about with the other 2 plans, about the fried foods, about the butters, about the sweets, having that on the lower end of it, and filling your plate with the berries and the beans and the green kinds of things. Very important to kind of think about what moderation is. And yes, treat, you don't want to treat yourself as like reward yourself with something sweet, but you want to incorporate it into a meal instead of making it look like a reward. So if you want a cookie, put the cookie on your plate, bring it into your meal instead of making it a reward for you. Right. For another day, we'll talk about things that are coming out of McGill University and 2 of the hormones that actually trigger your body to eat or trigger your body not to eat, the fullness kinds of things. And I think it's important that we realize that our body does give us signals and we have to pay attention to those signals, what it's telling you and how to interpret the signals. So that might be another, a thought for another day, but we'll go back to Lauren on some meal planning now.
All right. So when we were preparing with Judy, one of my favorite things that she said is she asked, when you open your fridge, do you see ingredients or do you see meals, food that you've prepared? And Avery and I are roommates. I can tell you our fridge has a lot of ingredients and my half of the fridge has no food on it. And what she's getting at with that, I think why Judy was asking us that is because if we open the fridge and we just see a bunch of boring old ingredients, I know myself, I'm much more likely to have 3 bowls of cereal and never make dinner. And so if we can plan a little bit ahead and use those ingredients to create some sort of meal that we can store in the fridge and have for after a long day of school or work, we're more likely to eat a more nutritious meal when we are too tired to cook or whatever it is. And so this is a really good example of one of those meals. And I actually made it this week. I forgot the salsa. So I was like, why is this? It's missing something. And when I looked back at it, I remembered why, but it's very basic. You can read through it, but it's a burrito bowl. So it has, if anyone wants to participate and help me identify the different food groups, they can, but we've got rice as our grain. For our protein, we have black beans. For our vegetable, we have avocado, lettuce, tomato, and we have some, where was the dairy I was looking at? We've got cheese. You could put sour cream on top if you want a little dairy. And there isn't really any fruit in this, but that's the point of my plate. There's some flexibility. And maybe you have an apple for your snack, and then you've completed this idea of my plate, and it's a complete meal. And so it's a very customizable plate. It's not very expensive. And I'd imagine that many of us already have most of these ingredients at home. So that is my plug for the burrito bowl.
Thank you. And Avery, how about you?
Okay, so when we're talking about meal planning with the pyramid, sometimes it can be a little confusing because the pyramid talks about like frequency, not necessarily building a meal. but there are some daily recommendations we can take from the pyramid. So we're going to look for about 5 fruits or veggies a day, 3 servings of dairy, and making half of our grains whole grains. So those are some daily recommendations that we can use to incorporate the Mediterranean diet. In this one, you'll see that we focus on these foods at the bottom, the fruits, vegetables, and grains. We have tons of sources of that in this salad. We've got quinoa, we have chickpeas, cucumbers, tomatoes, all those fruits and vegetables. And this drizzle of olive oil is going to be really important to incorporating those healthier fats, kind of like what Lauren talked about. And then the crumbled feta is going to be, up here a little bit, one of the proteins that we eat in moderation, but a really good source, a really good dairy to incorporate into this salad. And yeah, like we've been talking about, it's something that is going to keep really well and is going to be really easily accessible. You're much more likely to grab this all ready to go rather than, chopping up a cucumber and tomato whenever you need it. So another great one to have ready, just grab and go. The light falls on it in the fridge, like Judy said.
Thank you. So the examples for the Mind diet, the snack idea is over on the right side about almond or peanut butter and whole wheat crackers. That's really easy and it has protein, and that's really what's going to keep you full is fiber or protein. If you're into smoothies, you can make an almond milk if you're into almond milk with berries and spinach. And believe me, the berries do hide the taste of the spinach, although you get the boost, the flavonoids from both of them. And then hummus, if you're a Sam's person, Sam's Club or Costco person, you can get a box of small containers of hummus already made. So again, grab and go. If you've got a bag of celery or a bag of carrots that you've already cleaned and it's sitting in your refrigerator and you grab the hummus, it's a good snack that will carry you to your next meal. Same thing with an apple. It'll carry you because of the fiber and a little bit of sugar to your next meal. With the Mind diet, the lunch ideas, you can see what's on there. And again, there's that focus on those whole grains, on the protein as far as an egg or a tuna. If you're ever really struggling for something, a can of tuna, actually I use the water, not packed in oil, but I use the water. And having a can of tuna and some Miracle Whip that is very low in calories and some celery in it, or some onions, a great filler kind of thing to get you through the good fast lunch, to get you through to your dinner. All right, so here comes the rainbow.
All right. So like Lauren said, when we're making, half our plate fruits and vegetables, we want to focus on variety. And one of the reasons for that is incorporating different colors is also going to incorporate a variety of nutrients. And you'll see some examples here. So yellow, oranges, and reds are considered carotenoids. And this is an antioxidant that can be converted to vitamin A. And it has been shown to reduce oxidative stress in the brain. It promotes healthy skin, vision, immune function, and things like that. There's also benefits of greens. Greens are going to also have antioxidants, great source of fiber, lots of vitamins and minerals that are going to support a lot of those same functions as the carotenoids. And then flavonoids are going to be blues and purples. So these are going to have anti-inflammatory effects, could protect against disease. They assist with cell signaling and could have some neuroprotective effects, protecting against the onset of Alzheimer's or dementia and just delaying that cognitive decline. So you'll see a lot of these were incorporated into the Mind diet. There was mention of, pomegranates and blueberries and these things that have these rich colors and antioxidants that have been linked to preserving brain function. So we want a little bit of everything when it comes to our fresh fruits and vegetables and making sure we're getting a wide variety of these sources and these nutrients.
All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about mindful eating. The thing about food is it plays so many roles in our life. Food is social, food is family, food is filling, food is nutritious. And so food does all these things for us. And sometimes it's hard to distinguish why we're eating what we're eating. And so the idea of mindful eating is that we can, like it says, be mindful in what we're eating, be aware of why we're eating something and how we're feeling. And so a helpful tool in this is the hunger scale. You can all see it here. We want to avoid the reds and oranges here on the end. So sorry, the heater's a little weird, but you can see that our ones and twos we're so hungry, and we're having a physiological response to being hungry. Some of us get a headache. Does anyone want to shout out what happens when they get hungry? Judy, Avery, anyone?
I think I go right to whatever's convenient. So I'm going to the pantry and the chips. I'm just like,
Okay,
I'm beyond it.
bolting.
I can't think and I can't do anything until I eat.
Exactly, perfect.
I
Anyone
can
else?
I can definitely tell a difference when I'm at school. In undergrad, my friends used to call me out. They'd say, Avery, have you eaten breakfast today? Do you need a snack? Because I would completely clock out like halfway through the lecture and just could not focus. And everybody else recognized that I was hungry.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Avery. I see someone commented they get hangry. I can very much relate to that. So we want to avoid getting so hungry that we're having such a negative response. But if you look at numbers 3 and 4, that's where we're starting to feel hungry, but we're not famished yet. And so that is when our body's telling us you should eat, start thinking about what you want to eat now before you are absolutely starving. And so for me, that's hard for me to pay attention to. It's easy for me to push off hunger, but as we're more mindful of that, then we can eat sooner and our body will quiet down and our body will quit telling us, feed me, feed me. So once we're eating, it's important to pay attention to how full we're feeling. Our body will tell us when it's full. We have different hormones that are hopefully regulating that in our body. And so you see here, like 5 and 6 is we're feeling satisfied, we're feeling pleasantly full. And then you can see 7 and 8, we're starting to feel a little stuffed. This is like Thanksgiving, and then it just keeps going. And by the time we get to 10, we're feeling so full that we're sick. And I'd imagine most of us have experienced both extremes of this hunger scale. And it's beneficial to try to stay within these green zones. That'll help us avoid these extreme feelings of fullness or hunger. Additionally, this is something we can keep in mind when we are maybe wanting to eat habitually. If we're wanting to grab a snack because we got home from school and we're bored. Maybe we're not hungry, but we're just used to it. Maybe you can stop and think, am I actually hungry? Do I want this? Or am I okay? And so not that you can't, if you're out with friends and you're not starving, but they're having pizza, go ahead and have a slice, but be aware of how hungry you are and what your body's trying to tell you. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at what happens when we listen to our body.
Thank you. And I think when you're transitioning from 5 to 4, that's the hardest part, is like trying to catch that. And so if you are mindful and you start to pay attention and you can catch it, then you're able to make a good choice. Sometimes if you have a glass of water, it actually was your body telling you you were thirsty, you ignored it, and so it went on to start saying, I'm hungry, hoping that it would get some fluids in with the food. So sometimes it's just water. And I know my kids always kind of tease me about that. Oh, mom says it's just water, you're not really hungry. But it could be that you're not paying attention to your signals. And it could have been that there was a water signal and now it's a food signal, and now you're starving, so you're going for the chips. So try to catch that 5-4 place, and that would be great. Thank you, Lauren, for all that great
Could
information.
I add a comment as well on the hunger scale? I have found that in the times where have been more restrictive, I've been told to intermittent fast and do all these things. In those times when I don't eat until I'm at, a 2, it's very easy to then jump to a 9. When I haven't eaten all day and I'm feeling so down, I overeat and I overcompensate and end up uncomfortably full. And I think it can be very easy to yo-yo between the two extremes. And it's very hard to get back into the middle once you start that cycle. So just another plug that I've experienced, another reason to try to stay within the yellow and the green as much as possible.
That's a good point, Avery. Thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, so when we're talking about snacking and meal planning, something that we want to do is incorporate multiple food groups when we're preparing a snack, specifically adding fiber and protein to your snacks. These are the things that are going to keep you full longer. When we're just snacking on carbohydrates, specifically like simple and refined carbohydrates, those are going to maybe make you feel full or satisfied really quickly. It's going to spike your blood sugar, but then you're much more likely to have a crash later on, and it's not going to sustain you for a long time. So what we can do is incorporate multiple food groups. It's going to decrease that spike in your blood sugar, and give you a little bit more long-term sustainable energy.
The other day, Avery and I were grocery shopping, and I said, "What did people snack on before we had chips?" And she laughed and said, "Probably fruit and nuts." And I think there's a reason. I love chips, don't get me wrong, but I think there's a reason they had to be man-made, is because our body needs these natural sources of fiber and protein, like nuts, and of fruit and vegetables. And those are things that the earth gives us, and they're things that our body needs. And so we should be incorporating those into our snacks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks, you guys. So what do you have to eat around rush? You didn't bring your lunch, and so now you're hungry, and what do? So there's several things that are available to you. The cafeteria is called Fuda, and I thought it was an acronym, so I went on this search, and it's not. It's just a company that brings in local vendors. Same thing with Cafe 7, that's up in the tower on the 7th floor. So if you actually look at how the cafeteria is laid out, it's laid out very thoughtfully. So if you are somebody who's a vegetarian or are somebody who wants to watch calories, there's areas you can go to. If you just want to go for the hamburger, they've got it there. If you want a deli sandwich, they've got it. And so to be able to kind of think through what you want to eat, it's laid out well. Now we have Panera. There are roving food carts. There's Subway over in the Ortho building. Down the block, there are a couple other options. There's actually Room 500 has roving food carts on the clinical units. So different units at different times, but there is a roving food cart. If you look at the vending machines in the academic facility, they're actually color coded. And this was a Rush student project. And I thought it was brilliant that the snacks are there, but they actually organize it to kind of give you a little guilt about when you're making your choice, to make a good choice. Farmer's Fridge is the salad vending. And even though containers look small, once you open up that lid, that salad fills a plate. So try that if you're into salads or hard-boiled eggs kind of thing. And then there's the West Side Food Hall over in the renovated now hotel that used to be Cook County Hospital. So it's on the first floor that you could try that. So those are all the different kinds of things that are in the area that you could take advantage of. Now, the other thing to just kind of bring up is gardens. For those of you who live here during the year, that you actually can get a plot for a garden. And just the thought of being able to go and get a fresh tomato is just kind of like an amazing thing. But there's the closest one is the Velma Johnson Memorial Garden on Flournoy, but there's one in the Garfield Park area. There's one in Bronzeville, one at 62 in Dorchester. So there's a lot of them out there. So if you just look at Chicago Community Gardener Association, they will actually help you with that. And then you can get maps if you go into Chicago Park District. I just think that's a nice option. It's also good if you're counseling any patients or families about food and they live in the Chicago area. Now, here's another thought, the what if part, that it could be you, it could be a friend of yours, it could be someone, a client that you're working with, that there is food insecurity. And so it's important that you know about the resources that we have available, that you can go to the Greater Food Depository, and actually there's a number 211. You can call 211 and get get a location of where food is available for someone who is hungry. There's a food map, there's a phone number on the screen that's really good to be able to call. When you go, and students can go even to the UIC, they have a pop-up pantry. When you go, just make sure you bring your ID. That's an important thing, that you have IDs. As far as the Greater Food Depository, how it works is they get large overstocked foods, like from Tyson Chicken. And then there's 10 depositories in Illinois. So think about like Tyson sends out extra chicken to all those places. They then dispense that food to agencies, which are food pantries. Those food pantries actually buy the food, but for a very low amount, like 10 cents kind of thing. During COVID, they actually waived the price. So they were giving away food that was really helpful. It was free from the distributors. The other thing is, if any of you are in the Hunger Walk, have you ever done the Hunger Walk? What's really cool about it is provides credit for the food pantries based on the participation of the walk. So if you participate and you're in a certain area, that food pantry is going to get credit for more food. So I think those are really good things to think about, that you can do, something you can do toward hunger, and hopefully help others at the same time. Right. This one, we just wanted to, each of us kind of do a little bit of a wrap up about when you might need a coach and what type of coaching you might like to try for. And if anybody knows of any options out there that we didn't cover, please go ahead and put it in the chat or unmute. The other thing is, if you think there are resources that could be brought to Rush, go to your student senate. Let them know what you need as students here on the kind of schedules you have. It's very important that you have that. Lauren and Avery, anything?
As aspiring dietitians, I'd like to put a plug in there that how would I say this? I didn't realize how encompassing our field is. And so we can help people who, with a variety of questions or concerns that they may have about food. And sometimes it is as simple as helping someone find a recipe, or maybe it is more complicated, like, for example, disordered eating. That would be a dietitian who's specialized in that. But there are so many different specialties within the world of dietetics that if you have a concern, I'm sure there's someone out there who can help.
Thank you. Avery, any thoughts on this?
Just the one thing I wanted to mention is that, you don't always have to have a huge problem to come for help. You don't have to be, starving and completely out of food to finally go get some help and find some resources, or you don't have to have a diagnosed eating disorder in order to talk about making good choices, or maybe you're struggling with those kinds of things. You can have some disordered eating habits or whatever it is, but you don't have to wait until it's too big of a problem or something you deem serious enough. I think there's a lot of people and a lot of resources that are available to just have those simple conversations and to learn early on before you're really struggling. So that's all I would say.
I think that's great advice. I think it's important too to kind of titrate how much YouTube searching you do and how much that you actually work with a registered dietitian. And if it's something beyond food planning or disordered eating, that you might want to think about urge control. If you come home and you are starving and you just can't get past that, and you do end up snacking till you're full and not really eating, maybe that is something that you would want to come to the wellness center and work with a coach or a counselor on urge control, on prioritizing, on organizing things, on like looking at your schedule. So there's all different ways to approach these kinds of things to make it better for you, to make your wellness an easy thing. And that's really what we want to do today, is that we want to make it the easy choice. So opening the fridge, looking in your cabinets, what is easy for you to access, and can you shift it so that it's easy to access something that's healthy, nutritious, filling, fiber, protein? What kinds of things can we help you do? So hopefully most of this talk has helped you build some ideas, or even brought up some questions in your mind, what you could do differently when you open your refrigerator tonight and take a look in there. All right, what I'd like to do next is just go through some of our resources that we have. And at any point, please jump in, Avery or Lauren or anybody, if you have some ideas, thoughts, or questions. So this is the Wellness Center, and it's over across the street, 7 minutes to get there. But what's nice to know that it exists, that there is a physical place. I'm actually in one of the offices right now talking to you, and our front desk and our conference room. It's a small area, but it is beautiful, and it was done based on wellness. The lighting, the sound, everything kind of allows you to take a breath when you walk in. And it was built on philanthropic dollars because people thought that it was important that we had a physical plant that went along with all the programming that we do at the Wellness Center. The services themselves are counseling, case management, and the Energy Pod. I know a lot of students know the Energy Pod, even from orientation, everybody was asking about it. All of these services are free, so there should be nothing that holds you back as far as finances to come to the Wellness Center, especially since you could do this online as well. And you can come as much as you want. There's no session cap, so you just need to get an appointment for it. That's the important piece. We're open 7 to 7, Monday through Friday. We have telehealth visits available, and that you can go on Rush Wellness on the Inside Rush page, or you could use the QR code. I'll move our picture here so you can get a clear shot at the QR code. If you want to just go to the website, and the website itself has a lot of good information. It has all the recorded lectures that we've done. It has the wellness newsletter that if you've missed it in your email, it's there. And then a lot of great resources about yoga and meditation and mindfulness and those kinds of things. So it's just worth a 5-minute tour of it toward your wellness. That's just kind of a nice thing. If you went to the website, this is what you would see on the top part of it. So if you wanted to come in and schedule an appointment, even for the Energy Pod, you would click on the schedule appointment part. If you were to scroll down on the screen, there's a lot of other buttons to push to bring up a lot of different wellness types things. But when you do open up the appointments, you'll see the names of the counselors, the psychotherapists, and you can click on them and it'll show what's available. And what you want to do is just click down their names till you find one who has a time that you like. And once you're in and you get the appointment, they'll help you go to the counselor or the coach that you're hoping for. And so that's a really nice thing to be able to do. So get in, get an appointment, and come in and just kind of share, like if you're overwhelmed, if you're anxious, if you have urge control issues, and whatever it is, sometimes it's just nice to come in and have somebody listen to what's going on. The way it was designed was definitely about confidentiality and privacy, just the way of the traffic flow, the way of the documentation, the independent scheduling, all of that was very thoughtfully done so that you felt confident in coming and that your privacy is protected. Now, we do have something that started last year, is our triage pager, which I think is a great option. That if you or one of your colleagues is just out of sorts, that you're just not sure what's going on, you don't have to sort it out. You can actually talk to a psychotherapist within an hour. So use the pager number, the 852323, to be able to page wellness. And what happens is within the hour, and usually it's about 10-15 minutes actually, they'll respond to you and it'll be one of our psychotherapists to talk to you about how you're feeling right now and what types of resources might be helpful over the next couple of days. And so for some people, that is just such a great relief. You actually take a breath that I've been able to share my problem and I've been able to have some focused assistance and it feels good. And so that's important. The other option that you have is that we partner with our student assistance program through CompPsych, and that's 24/7. And so you could call them at any time. The phone number is on the screen as well as the QR code. And they also have options for counseling. And for them, it is 6 free sessions. So they are limited. So it's a little bit different, but the idea that they're 24/7 to get you started is really important. I've compared the two side by side. So I've been talking about the Wellness Center, open 7 to 7, physical and telehealth, online scheduling, unlimited sessions with no charge at this point for both psychology and psychiatry. On the other side is the Wellness Assistance Program operated by Perspectives, 24/7, telehealth or in person. You call for phone scheduling. The sessions are limited, but the unique part is that they also offer services to your immediate family and significant others, which is really kind of an amazing thing that you have available. Some of the programs that are here at the Wellness Center are things like the Wellbeing Index, the Wellness Coaching, Mental Health First Aid, the Wellness Talks. All those kinds of things are things that you're able to take advantage of right away. The Wellbeing Index, if you take this short assessment, you get your score right away. And what's nice is that it compares you over time and it compares you to those in your area that you consider your peers. So it's kind of nice to know like where you are in the world. And so if you use your QR code, if you use your camera on your phone and click on this, if it asks for an invitation code, you would click on Rush and be able to start that well-being index and just kind of see where you are, just kind of get a feel for how you're doing and where you are. And it will ask you if you want to be reminded in a week or a month to repeat it. And after 3 times, it actually will show you, track you on how you're doing and maybe give you some suggestions on what areas might work better. The other thing we offer is mental health first aid. This is just like CPR, but this is specifically for your mental health. And it's nice that you have somebody in your area that has done this. It's a certification. It does take 8 hours. It's 2 hours pre-work, 6 hours, and it's usually on the weekend. So if that works for your schedule, again, inside rush.rush.edu. And the newest thing is the coaching. So this is coaching that's available to physicians and nurses. And so you want to be able to have a one-on-one coach. This is maybe a really good thing that you want to look into. And again, there's more information on the website. The wellness talks that I do and my colleagues work with me to do are listed. So we do all kinds of things. A lot of them start from you guys and suggestions that you've made, which has been really helpful for not just students, but also for the Rush systems for health. In each of our talks, we try to talk about the pillars of health, and hopefully between Avery and Lauren and I, we were able to talk a little bit about that nutrition, about how it helps with your stress management. And then in the end, there are outcomes with your physical activity, your sleep, and the social contact. So it is kind of a good combination for all of that. We do want you to be mindful of your sleep, how much you move in a day, what your nutrition looks like, and that you do it each day. And maybe each day you shift a little bit and do it a little better, right? Right. So this is a good time for us to take some comments and kind of check in to see if there's anything in the chat that you have a thought about. The QR code that's on the screen is for an evaluation of this or any suggestions that you have. But that I love that saying that you can do a lot for your meal plan, not just your diet, by eliminating foods that have mascots. I thought that was brilliant. So I see Beth, you're unmuted. Did you want to ask a question?
No, I'm sorry. It was unintentional. Sorry.
No problem. Nice to see you. All right. And then there were some things in the chat about
chat.
meal for breakfast keeps me full till 3 o'clock. That's incredible. That fiber in there really does make a difference. There's also a thought about studies that have shown the spikes of overeating that can happen when you eat with friends. And I think that is something to be conscious of, that are you doing it out of habit or out of social need, or are you truly hungry? So you think about it. Yeah, and brunches are really bad for that, right? And then Sasha talked about being in that same clinical nutrition program as you guys, and talked a little bit about the question about cholesterol and how it has
So,
an effect on our blood. Did you want to talk about that, Lauren? Go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, Sasha asked the question, and one of my classmates who actually is studying the Mind Diet right now replied with a good response, saying that dietary cholesterol doesn't really affect our cholesterol, like serum levels, but rather it's like our intake of saturated fats that will. And so this scare of like eating too many eggs is going to ruin our cholesterol is not really a valid concern.
Right. And if you read about cholesterol, it is like actually one of the building blocks for everything that our body does. So there is a need for that. You don't want to wipe
Yes.
that out at all. Absolutely. If any of you struggle with bread and pasta, like that's your go-to thing, there's a great book that I would recommend, and it probably is an audiobook as well. It's called Bread Belly or Wheat Belly. I'm sorry, Wheat Belly. It's incredible to learn about how grains have changed over the years, how they've been altered, and what that does to your body. And so that would be like my suggested reading for the day would be Wheat Belly.
Mm.
We have someone asking if you could go back a slide, Judy.
Sure. How far back?
Perfect. Someone was wanting to look at that.
Oh.
And then Sasha also asked how fast you eat can also impact how hungry you feel. Any comments on recommendations on eating pace? My recommendation would be going back to that mindful eating and the hunger scale. Was it Judy or Avery was saying the hardest part of that is distinguishing between, oh, like, am I feeling full, or am I getting on the verge of like, oh wait, maybe I'm too full. And so if we're eating slowly, I think we have an easier time reading our body. And so I think it's hard in the medical field. So many people have 10 minutes to eat lunch before they have to run to help a patient, and do what you can. I would say do your best to just maybe when you can be somewhere quiet where you can eat and you can be thinking, you're not on your phone, you're present with your meal.
Even if you put 10 almonds in a baggie in your pocket and you were hungry, those almonds would actually carry you through for a little while till you could get to a meal. And then if your meal actually was something you didn't have to prepare, or you didn't have to go wait in a line for, you would have more time to sit down and eat it. And the more you can sit down without your food, without your phone and eat, the better in tune you are with your body as far as what's going on, like how hungry you are. Is this filling you up? Are you done eating? Could you actually say, I'm done and there's food left, and maybe save it for later when you need a little snack? So I think it is, like you said, that being attentive to what your body's telling you.
I would also say portion sizes could help. If you don't have time to really be truly mindful or go very slowly, maybe instead of dishing out a whole big portion and you just power your way through it, I have found that if I start small and assess how I'm feeling after that and then add more or stop, that's not necessarily talking about pace, but I think also controlling your serving sizes will help you know when you are full and kind of gauging that hunger.
Yeah, that 8-inch plate versus that 10 or 12-inch plate. Absolutely. It has a very visual. For some people, the larger plate with small amounts of food with a lot of open space looks more appealing. For other people, the smaller plate when it looks full, then they're done. They don't add anymore. So that helps them with the portion. So kind of find where you are and how you visually look at your food. I think that's a really good thing to think about. I think we had a couple more things in our chat and then we'll.
So can I make a comment, real quick comment?
Yes, hi.
Yeah, I'm Sasha Shapikani. I'm actually a professor here at Rush. So one of the things that we studied in biochemistry, and that is a regulation of HDL, LDL, the lipid profiles in the body, is that yes, our cells can control and regulate these things. But you have to be also mindful that HMG-CoA reductase, Brown's won the Nobel Prize for that. So you have to, if you overload, the sugars can be converted to fat and vice versa, and we will have these deposits, and they will increase your cholesterol. Now, having said that, there are recent studies suggesting that people should eat 2 eggs a day, because eggs, what you think is actually the opposite. Eggs consumption increases HDL, lowers LDL. So that's the comment I was taking, because I was looking at some of these diagrams. They were from 2009. 2008. And so sometimes it takes about 10, 15 years to make new information, make their way into the textbooks. So I just wanted to kind of caution that we need to remain on top of these new information that may become available.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I
Yeah,
appreciate
that's very
that.
useful.
Oh, we
Yeah, I
have a-
feel like,
Go
oh, sorry.
ahead.
I think eggs were one of those foods that were kind of, we were scared of for a few years there. It's like when we went through, there's big fat-free trends and things like that. I think at one point eggs were kind of grouped into that like scary foods category, and people were a little afraid of eggs and cholesterol for a long time. But that is a really great point, that as we've gotten more research and more studies, I don't think that those recommendations are the same.
I agree. I think there's so much out there and we're learning so much, like every day things are coming out. There were 2 questions about prediabetes, what foods to avoid. And I think for that one, you can kind of jump in, but that is that small, consistent meals is really important to kind of keep that level. And then the other question about postmenopausal, absolutely. After the age of 45, that your body does put on pounds every year. And so that you have to look at your how fast you burn, like what is your burn rate as far as calories go, and maybe reset how you eat. That you can't eat like you're 20 or 30 anymore. You really have to kind of reset that. And that's a really good thing to work with a dietitian on. Any thoughts, you guys, on that?
You go, Avery.
I think there are a lot of great dietitians out there that will specialize in areas like this. They're more familiar with hormones and hormonal conditions, and especially women's health. There are a lot of dietitians that will focus on different conditions and hormonal imbalances, and can provide some really good recommendations.
So I don't know. I think maybe we should talk to the Student Senate about having like a drop-in dietitian clinic thing.
That'd be really cool.
I thank both Lauren and Avery for being here with me today for Are You Well? And we have been able to bring you a new topic about nutrition and about eating your way to wellness. And so if you are so inclined to go ahead and give us an evaluation on that. And I want you to think of one thing you could do today that could help you nutritionally about your wellness. And maybe it's just have a drink of water, have a little extra water in your day. All right, have a good day. Thank you.